Welcome back. In today's video, we're going to go through the layout of this Pico Console PCB design and break down the component placement, routing, and overall structure of the board. In the previous video, we went through the schematic, talked about general design practices, and pointed out a few things that could be improved to make the design cleaner and more robust. Now we're taking that one step further and looking at how those decisions translate into the actual PCB layout. This design was sent in by a viewer through my email, so if you want your own board to be reviewed in a future video, you can send it to my email, which will be in the description below, or join my school community. So in this video, we'll go through things like placement, routing decisions, power distribution, and just overall how the board is structured from a layout perspective. Alright, so let's jump straight into it. So looking at the layout, the first thing that I notice is that this design is done more from a signals as wires mindset, rather than thinking of signals as electromagnetic fields. And this is something that's very common, especially when starting out, because in the schematic everything is just lines connecting components, so it's natural to think of them as simple wires. But in reality, signals don't just travel through a wire. They propagate as electromagnetic fields, and those fields exist between the trace and its return path. So it's not just about connecting point A to point B, it's about how the signal travels, where the return current flows, and how those fields interact with the rest of the board. And this becomes especially important when you start dealing with things like noise, signal integrity, and interference. Because if you only think in terms of wires, you might miss things like poor return paths, coupling between traces, or large current loops. So a big mindset shift in PCB design is to stop thinking of signals as just wires and instead think of them as fields that need a controlled path to travel through. For example, if we look at the ground connections, or as I like to call it, the return path, it's routed more like simple wires. Now don't get me wrong, this will work just fine in many cases, but this is where you can start running into problems when it comes to EMC and EMI. Because every signal always needs a return path. A propagating signal doesn't just exist in the trace itself, it also has electric and magnetic fields associated with it. And these fields always form a loop, meaning the signal current goes one way and the return current comes back. Now the important part is that this return current will always find a path, but that path doesn't necessarily have to be on your PCB, and that's exactly what we want to avoid. Because if the return path is not well defined on the board, the current will spread out, take unpredictable paths, and those fields can radiate into the environment. And that's when you start failing EMC and EMI testing. So what we want instead is to contain those fields. And the best way to do that is by having a clean, continuous return plane on the PCB. That way the return current flows directly underneath the signal trace, forming a tight loop. This minimizes radiation, reduces noise, and overall gives you much better control over the signal behavior. So looking at my redesign, I've kept it as a two-layer board to avoid increasing the cost. But instead what I've done is fill pretty much the entire board with a ground plane on both the top and bottom layers. Now of course this is still not perfect because we still have routing traces on both sides, and in some areas we need to cross signals, which breaks up the return path locally, and when that happens, the return current can't flow directly underneath the signal anymore. So it has to take a small detour around those gaps or obstacles, but even with that, this is still a huge improvement, because now the return current is at least confined to the PCB. Instead of spreading out or coupling into the environment, it stays within the ground planes, and that drastically reduces EMI and radiated emissions. So while it's not as ideal as having a dedicated inner ground plane like in a 4-layer stack-up, it's still a very solid improvement while keeping the cost low. In the previous video, when we went through the schematic, I added quite a few things like decoupling capacitors, proper button circuitry, pull-ups, and just overall improvements to make the design more robust. So now let's take a look at how those changes actually translate into the layout, how they are placed, how they are routed, and how we make sure they follow good layout practices as well. Because it's one thing to fix things in the schematic, but the real performance comes from how you implement it on the PCB. So let's go through that. So let's start with the decoupling and power. Starting with the decoupling capacitors near the MCU module, we can see that I've placed them on the bottom side, very close to the power pins. This is because the MCU module itself will sit on the top side, so placing the caps directly underneath allows for a very short connection. And the important part here is the order of the connection. We always wanted to go from the power pin directly into the decoupling capacitor, and then from the capacitor into the PDN. That way the capacitor is the first thing the power sees before it spreads out into the rest of the board, which means it can effectively filter out noise and supply local current right where it's needed. So this is exactly the kind of placement and routing we want for good decoupling performance. Looking at the display on the top side, we've done the exact same thing here. The decoupling capacitor is placed on the bottom side as close as possible to the display's power pin. And again, we follow the same ordering from the power pin directly into the decoupling capacitor, and then from the capacitor into the PDN. So even though it's a different part of the board, the same principles apply. Keep it close, keep the loop small, and make sure the capacitor is the first thing the power sees before spreading out. Now looking at the original design, we can see that the entire PDN is routed using simple traces. And like I mentioned before, for a relatively low-speed design like this, it will probably work just fine, but at the same time, it doesn't really hurt to do it the proper way. If you have the space, it's always better to improve the power distribution. So if we look at my redesign, we can see that on the bottom layer, I've implemented the PDN as a plane instead. And the main advantage of that is that it lowers the overall impedance of the power network, which means better current delivery, less voltage drop, and improved noise performance. So again, not strictly required for a design like this, but it's one of those improvements that makes the design more robust and closer to best practice. Next up, we have the button circuitry that was added in the schematic in the previous video, meaning the pull-up resistors and the RC filter for the bounce. Starting with the RC filter, the capacitor needs to be placed as close as possible to the GPIO pin. And the reason for that is because we want to filter the signal right at the input of the MCU. If the capacitor is placed further away, then the trace between the capacitor and the GPIO pin is still unfiltered, which means that any noise picked up along that trace can still make it into the MCU. So by placing the capacitor close to the GPIO pin, we ensure that everything entering that pin has already been filtered, which gives us a much cleaner and more stable signal. And as you can see in the layout, all the capacitors for the RC filters from the buttons are placed close to the MCU module pins. So this is done correctly and follows good layout practice. For the resistors, both the filtering resistor and the pull-up resistor are not as critical when it comes to placement. So here I placed them close to their corresponding button instead. The reason is simply to keep each button circuit grouped together and easy to understand. So each button has its own little section with the button, the pull-up, and the filter components all placed nearby. Electrically, the resistor placement is not nearly as sensitive as the capacitor placement near the GPIO pin, so we have more freedom here. And in cases like this, I usually just try to keep it simple, group the related components together, keep the routing clean, and avoid making the layout more complicated than it needs to be. So the rest of the board is pretty much the same as the original design. The main difference now is that we actually have a return plane present as well. So instead of routing ground like simple traces, we now have a much better structure where the signals have a nearby return path on the PCB. Now, of course, this redesign is still not perfect. If I wanted to improve this even more from an EMI perspective, I would probably turn this into a 4-layer board. That way, I could have the inner 2 layers as clean and uninterrupted return planes. And that would make the return path much more controlled, because even if I route signals on the top and bottom layers, they would always have a solid reference plane right next to them. So from an EMI and signal integrity perspective, that would be a much better stack up. But for this type of beginner project where cost is also important, keeping it as a 2-layer board and adding proper ground planes on both sides is already a big improvement compared to the original layout. So that's pretty much it for this review. Of course, the board is not completely finished yet. There are still things missing, like stitching vias around the board, cleaning up a few small areas, and probably some other small layout improvements as well. But I think for this review, I'm going to stop here. The main point I wanted to show in this video is how much you can improve a layout just by thinking more about return paths, ground planes, decoupling placement, and keeping the power distribution cleaner. And again, this is not about saying the original design was bad. For a beginner project, this is actually a really cool board, and the fact that it combines a Raspberry Pi Pico, display, buttons, battery management, and audio into one small PCB is already impressive. The goal here is just to show how you can take a working design and slowly improve it by applying better PCB design practices. So if you enjoyed this video and want to see more PCB design reviews like this, make sure to subscribe. And if you want your own PCB design reviewed in a future video, you can send your design to my email, which will be in the description below, or you can join my school community where you can share your designs and get feedback. But yeah, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.